Okay, you. Ho, ho, ho. Today we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be ranking my favorite bands today. Yes, my top 10 favorite bands. I think, well, as of right now, this is the list. I'm not making any changes. And as always, we're gonna be making some honorable mentions. Um, I'm gonna say this. There's a lot of bands I love, but I'm going to mention it right now, top 10, and there are 13 honorable mentions. I've probably forgotten plenty of bands, and maybe there's going to be some bands that you don't like, but to me, these bands are important. And to be fair, I don't think any of these really belong in like my liked bands. There's some bands that I don't really like, but they're here because they're important. They're here because they might have a song that is very important to me. And I do see a couple of bands. Not gonna lie, I listened to the honorable mentions in order. I think this will be the final order. I'm not changing anything. I don't care if it's too fucking late. This is what I'm going with. To get started, I'm gonna start from the bottom in the favorite bands pile. And after we say number 2, then I'm going to start from the bottom of the honorable mentions. After I say number 1 in the honorable mentions, then I'll say my favorite band. So let's start from now with number 10. And that's going to go to a progressive metal band formed in the 90s. They've had 5 albums, and they're known for not releasing too much music, or releasing music from a huge timeline margin. The band is formed with one of the best drummers of all time, a lead singer who's a troll, but also with an amazing voice and a bassist and a guitarist who are just so amazing. I'm talking about Tool. Tool is very special. They're very special. It was once recommended by my social studies teacher in 11th grade. Very special. And I think the first song I've heard from them was Sober. And I immediately loved Sober. Sober is such a great song. And I realized there's something like Pink Floyd. You listen to them for the albums. You listen to their records like a record. You don't just listen to a singular song by Tool. It's what the progressive genre is all about. Some highlights on Tool is definitely going to be that they've made some very good albums, such as, Enema. They've made, Jesus Christ, have I forgotten all the Tool records? They made Lateralis, and they made 10,000 Days. That's what I thought at first. But the first record I heard was Fear Inoculum. And while it may not be the most smartest thing to start with Tool, I think for me, I didn't know anything about Tool. I remember my social studies teacher started playing Tool in class. And sorry, I thought I started dehydrating there for a second. But my social studies teacher was playing Tool in class. No idea. I just liked the heaviness of it. I searched it up on YouTube, and I saw they made very long songs. So I took my own time. Whenever I was playing, I just put on Spotify and I listened to the records. And the first one I saw was Fear Inoculum. I love the title track. Numa is probably one of my favorite songs they made. Descendant is great. Tempest Did I say Descendant? I don't think that's a Tool song. Let me check again. Did I get my shit wrong? Descending, Calling Voices. And then I've heard other records, you know. I've heard Lateralis, and that was incredible. 10,000 Days was incredible, you know, Jambi. But Enema may be my favorite record. No, my second favorite record. I think my favorite record is Lateralis. Lateralis is my favorite record. It has Schism as Lateralis, The Patient, you know, a lot of good songs. But Enema has Zoology, Hooker with the Penis, Stinkfist, 46 and 2. And you know, that first record may be my least favorite, but has some good shit on there. Solar, Prison Sex. Alright, that's enough about Tool. Tool, number 10. Number 9. There's only 3 metal bands on here, I'm gonna tell you this, and this is going to be my second favorite metal band, since Tool came at 3. Pantera. Pantera is such a brilliant band. Way better than Metallica. Way better. Miles ahead. Dimebag Darrell may be one of the best, maybe the best metal guitarist after Tony Iommi. After Tony Iommi, I think Dimebag Darrell really deserves that spot. The songs they made and the impact it has on me and my liking to metal is special, because I remember I was told to listen to Cowboys from Hell. I think it was one of the best things I've ever heard in metal. You know, you have brilliant songs like Domination, which has a very good live track. The one in Moscow in 1991, Breakdown, is fantastic. Cowboys from Hell, Cemetery Gates, Medicine Man. Medicine Man is awesome. You have The Art of Shredding. That riff is beyond stupid, man. It's awesome. You can also have other great records. Vulgar Display of Power. You have Far Beyond Driven. Such beautifully made records. Vulgar Display of Power has so many great songs. This Love, Mouth for War, fucking Hostile. Walk, of course. Walk, I mean, that being one of probably the most known Pantera song, most popular one. It's brilliant. Come on. Far Beyond Driven, you have Becoming, 5 Minutes Alone, I'm Broken, which is one of my favorite Pantera songs. You have Great Southern Trendkill, you have Floods on there, you have War Nerve. It's more like heavier, more kind of thrashy, more groovy. And I mean, I don't really care for the shit they're doing now, you know, with Zakk Wylde and whoever the fuck the other guy is. I don't give a shit. That lineup of Phil Anselmo, Rex Brown, and the 2 Abbott brothers. Beautiful, awesome drummer. Way better than Lars will ever be. You should stop shit talking Pantera, man. Yeah, now they were a glad band. Go fuck yourself. You're not even a good drummer. I'm gonna tell you right now, Metallica ain't in my top 10 or in my honorable mentions. But yeah, Pantera's number 9. Excellent lineup. Talented in all aspects of the instruments that they play. And that's Pantera number 9. Number 8 will go to one of the best singers of all time. I think they made one of the most iconic rock songs of all time. I'm talking about Queen. How can you not love Queen? Now, Queen would definitely be much higher if it weren't for a lot of their 80s and Made in Heaven. Now, I am a huge fan, and I believe, in my opinion, that 70s Queen was a lot better than 80s Queen. The first 5 records between Queen 1 all the way through A Day at the Races, compared to their 80s albums of Flash, the game is actually pretty good. Hot Space, The Works, The Miracle, and A Kind of Magic aren't really that great compared to what they were in the 70s. Now, I'm not going to really... News of the World and Jazz are good records, but the first 5 are something else. Now, Queen in the 70s, in the first 5 records, they were heavy, they were progressive, they made something between operatic music all the way to heavy metal. They made thrash, and I'm talking about Stone Cold Crazy. They've had brilliant heavy riffs like Ogre Battle, White Man, Stone Cold Crazy, of course. They've had, and one of the 90s, Headlong. I love Innuendo. That's one of the highlights from the 90s. If Made in Heaven wasn't there, then their 90s would have been awesome, because Innuendo is such a great record. To me, that was their ending to their career. Forget about Cosmos Rocks, that bullshit doesn't count to me. But Queen was something. That lineup of Freddie Mercury, Brian May, Roger Taylor, their harmonies alone were brilliant, and being backed up by such a talented bassist, and he shows that in Another One Bites the Dust, of course. The Game is a very good record, but again, those first 5 records have some of the best songs you'll ever hear, excluding Bohemian Rhapsody. You have March of the Black Queen, you have Brighton Rock, Now I'm Here, you have... What else do you even have? You have so many tracks. Liar, what a great heavy track that is. Son and Daughter, Modern Times Rock and Roll. They were heavy. They were so fucking heavy. Anyways, that's enough about Queen. Number 7. Honestly, I could have probably put this a little, downwards, but you can't deny the impact and some talented members. The talent of a band that was part of the British invasion, The Who. The Who, they had one of the best drummers of all time, and arguably the best bassist of all time, and arguably one of the best frontmen and vocalists of all time. And a guitarist who's incredible, as well as how great of a songwriter Pete Townshend is. The Who's first 8 records, I'm not going to count the Kenny Jones, I don't never even bother to hear them, don't give a shit, is iconic. They were the dirty band, the dirty, heavy band. The bad boys of the British invasion. Forget the Rolling Stones being the bad boys. The Who were the bad boys. They were the ones who took the drugs. They were the ones who made the heavy music. Even in their first record, even in their second record, they were doing hard shit. And then they made one of the first dirty songs before Helter Skelter, I Can See for Miles. That's not really heavy. It's more hard rock, leaning towards the acid side, but it's damn fucking dirty. and hard and rock and roll. The Who had the rock and roll soul, and they had beautiful songs. Baba O'Reilly, of course. Who Are You's great. Won't Get Fooled Again is very iconic, that scream. But they've had brilliant songs like Boris is the Spider, that's a funny song. Pinball Wizard, and their albums were beautifully made. Tommy, Quadrophenia, with The Real Me on there. Who's next? You cannot deny how fantastic The Who was, especially when you have a drummer like Keith Moon. What a guy he was, Keith Moon. Jesus Christ. You also have John Entwistle, the most chillest man of all time, who just laughs at anyone's antics. Doesn't give a shit. Alright, that's enough about The Who. Number 6 is Deep Purple. Deep Purple is such an iconic band in rock, and Machine Head being some of my favorite records of all time. Who Do We Think We Are is another great record. Deep Purple was talented. I'm gonna go with Mark II. I'm not gonna really go with Mark 1. Mark 1 was great, but Mark II, that lineup of Ian Gillan, Richie Blackmore, Roger Glover, Ian Pace, and in my opinion, the best keyboardist of all time, John Lord. That man was called the Hammond Organ King, the Hammond King, and he deserves that spot. For how energetic he is, watch the Space Truckin' live video of John Lord playing the keyboards. It's fantastic. Deep Purple's had so many great songs. Forget Smoke on the Water and Highway Star. They've had Burn, Flight of the Rat, Child in Time, of course. Speed King is great. Black Knight. Into the Fire, such a heavy track. On Iraq, but you also have Pictures of Home. Never Performed. What a great keyboard solo there is at the end. Lazy, what a great bluesy track that is. Am I right? But you also have their, they came back with Perfect Strangers. That was a good heavy record. They're still going today. They released a record not even a month ago. I didn't really listen to it. I'm not really keen on listening to everything that comes now, like Deep Purple and old and washed and all that shit. But for what they were before, they have a lot of talent. Richie Blackmore, what a guitarist he is. Ian Pace, such a brilliant fucking drummer. Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Anyways, we're gonna go with the top 5 now. Number 5, we are gonna go with Pink Floyd. How can I not go with Pink Floyd? Released some of the best records of all time. Now, let's talk about, the records prior to metal. I think metal is where Pink Floyd became the creative band that we all know of today. I think, and also performed more, and somewhat before the recordings of Source of All the Secrets, they were a psychedelic band. Then they started leaning towards progressive rock, keeping some of that psychedelia in them, and set the controls on, the Sun, some progressive and psychedelic roots there. More, and then we're going to forget about that shit. Atom Heart Mother was very progressive, but it didn't seem the creative Pink Floyd that we knew. You go to metal, side 2, and you see Echoes. Definitely one of the best songs they made one of the best progressive rock songs ever made. And you have Obscured by Clouds, and then you have, in my opinion, a top 5 record right there, Dark Side of the Moon. Outstanding. It's outstanding. I mean, you listen to it as a record. You don't listen to it as single songs, even though, that's what we still do. You have brilliant songs on there. You have Time. You have Money. You have Us and Them. You have The Great Gig in the Sky. Brain Damage Eclipse. Even Breathe in Any Color You Like. Those are incredible. And then they go on Wish You Were Here. They go on Animals. They go on The Wall. Then they start going on The Division Bell. Forget the Final Cut of that bullshit. Final Cut of Momentary Lapse for Reason. I don't give a shit for that. Pink Floyd is definitely one of the most creative bands of all time. David Gilmour, one of the best guitarists of all time. Roger Waters, of course, what a mind he's had. Nick Mason and Richard Wright always keeping that soul. Nick Mason kept the soul the most. Richard Wright, brilliant keyboardist. You cannot deny the impact Pink Floyd's had on today's music. Bands like Dream Theater, bands like Tool, as I mentioned. They make those progressive hits. Even though Pink Floyd was known, started out in psychedelic rock, and, a bit of the poppy things, because of Syd Barrett. They were definitely psychedelic and progressive at heart. They made those long songs. Number 4, my favorite metal band, Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath, interesting band. Now, I'm not going to go with everything past Dio. Those are actually Tony Iommi records. Tony Iommi solo records. Because Tony Iommi wanted to release those albums as a solo musician, but the record label didn't. They insisted on releasing it under the name Black Sabbath. Tony couldn't do anything about that, so they're known as Black Sabbath records. I don't consider them. I'm going to be talking mostly about the Dio era, and of course, the Ozzy era. The Ozzy era had its downtimes, after Sabotage. It released crappers like Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. Of course, them being absolute poopers, they released their all in Black Sabbath to Sabotage. Released they are known as the pioneers of metal, and that is what they are. They've made Paranoid, the album. I don't give a shit for that song. They had such great songs such as War Pigs, Fairies Wear Boots, Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, so awesome and heavy. They've had Children of the Grave on Master of Reality, After Forever's on there, Sweet Leaf, Into the Void, and even Lord of this World, and a great soft one called Solitude. Volume 4 had Wheels of Confusion. They've had Supernaut. They've had Snowblind. Changes. Changes is beautiful. I mean, come on. You may hate it because, what is this, a Sabbath song? But it's beautiful. Same thing with Solitude. Fifth studio album, Fluff was a piece of shit, I'll admit. But, there's some good songs on Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. A bit of a downgrade to Volume 4, but they released Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. They've had a National Acrobat. I haven't even talked about the debut. The debu's great. They recorded in 2 days. You had NIB, Behind the Wall of Sleep, The Wizard. You had the infamous title track Black Sabbath. Doom as well. It's a great album. Resume back to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, The National Acrobat. You have Spiral Architect. You know, it's such great records, and you have Sabotage, where I think you see a couple of, you see a bit proto-thrash. Symptom of the Universe, Hole in the Sky, Megalomania. Am I Going Insane is brilliant. And then you have, you know, Heaven and Hell, which I don't really care for much. But you can, if those first 6 albums was all that Black Sabbath made, I think you may have one of the best discography runs of all time. Seriously. And definitely the best metal band of all time. I mean, a lot of people would say Iron Maiden, and people would say Metallica for some reason. Sabbath. Number 3 is a very good influence in today's music, in today's heavy metal, and the 80s metal and 90s metal. Talking about hard rock act, Led Zeppelin. Zeppelin, I think, in my opinion, they're probably the most talented lineup of all time. You have the best singer, in my opinion. You have one of the best guitarists of all time. You have one of the best bassists of all time. And you have the best drummer of all time. The best. And that's what, I'm not going to say it's a fact, it's an opinion, but to greatly argue, he's the best. It's a good majority vote in the world. He's the best drummer of all time. Zeppelin have made such great records. Zeppelin 1 through 4, they made such beautiful songs on there. Fucking hell, they made Dazed and Confused, Good Times, Bad Times. How many more times? They've made Heartbreaker, they've made Whole Lotta Love, they've made... What else have they made? They made too many things. Bring It On Home, they've made... God, what else have they made? They made No Quarter, Houses of the Holy, they made Stairway to Heaven, of course, but you know, they made When the Levee Breaks, and they made Kashmir, especially. Kashmir is awesome. They made brilliant songs, so many songs, in such a small span of time, 8 albums only, you know, a bit short for a band like that, a band so iconic, but everyone looks at their talent, everyone looks at their lineup, and you see, this could be the best band of all time. And I'm fine with that opinion. I have no hatred to anyone who says Led Zeppelin is the best band of all time. Keep saying that. Way better than today's music. Way better. Alright, number 2, we're gonna go, I'm pretty sure I said this in the last vid, in the last music vid, I said The Doors. The Doors, I'm not gonna say too much because I mentioned a lot about them already. They made songs, brilliant songs. Jim Morrison, Ray Manzarek, such beautiful musicians, such brilliant musicians with such great talent. Jim Morrison had a unique personality, and a unique frontman personality. He had a unique voice as well. You know, you don't really hear much voices like that anymore. You don't really hear voices like that in general. But something Jim Morrison is, you know, somewhat of a genius. You know, he's somewhat of a genius. I mean, you know, you come up with songs like, what's a good example? You know, About to Touch the Earth, People Are Strange, you have Riders on the Storm, you have Light My Fire that they wrote. The Doors also making one of the best debut albums of all time. The Doors. And also a song that I forgot to include. I mean, in fact, I forgot to think about it, but I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't have put The End in my honorable mentions in the top 10 Doors songs then. But that's, brilliant thinking, a smart way to close out an album, one of the most long songs of all time, you won't mind. But you can't say, they're an iconic band, and that's it. Now we're gonna go to my honorable mentions. We're gonna start all the way from the bottom. I have 13 of them, by the way. And that number 13, part of the big four of the, thrash metal, the big four thrash metal bands, Slayer. Slayer is a great band, they're great and heavy, a big influence on death metal, one of the best pioneers of thrash metal, one of the best, enforcers of the thrash metal genre. They made such amazing music, they made heavy music, you have such great musicians in there. You have Tom Araya, you have Jeff Hanneman, Dave Lombardo, Kerry King not so much, but I'm not a fan of his soul as much. But Jeff Hanneman knew how to make a riff. Tom Araya knew how to sing. That's why Slayer was Slayer. Tom Araya's voice carried on it. 12, I don't like it as much, and I don't really want to put him in my honorable mentions, but I feel like I gotta, because it's one of the first bands I've ever heard. I'm talking about one of probably the, what do we say? How do we say this again? The creators of the grunge movement in Seattle. Talking about Nirvana. Nirvana, the discography's short, but it's good, In Utero, not so much, Nevermind. Again, I'm not going to be talking about Smells Like Teen Spirit and In Bloom and Colors. They had songs like Drain You, they had On a Plane, Stay Away, Territorial Pistons, Breathe, that's amazing. Lounge Jack is fucking awesome. But also on In Utero, you have Heart Shaped Box, you have Milk It, you have Serve the Servants. But on Bleach, you also have some good songs. Incesticide, you have some good songs. Been a Sun, Stain, Dive, Slither. Bleach, you have Love Buzz, you have Floyd the Barber. You have good songs. 11, we're going to go with the punk rock band, early punk rock. I'm going to go with the MC5. MC5, I'm not going to be talking about, Kick Out the Jams and that, but that's a good song. They've had some other great songs like Tonight, they've had Looking at You, they've had Shakin' Street, they've had a great, High School as well. Oh, my goodness gracious. The MC5 was such an important band carrying on the punk rock movement. Because what they did is that, back then, they had a lot of balls. They had some balls. The punk rock moving into even though, they had some mix of like the blues, they were punk. They were a punk band. They were a punk band always. You had Sonic, you also had Rob Tyner, one of the best singers you ever hear from the 60s, of course. My motherfucker knew how to sing. He knew how to sing his balls out. 10 is the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones, to me, they're all the way on the bottom here. So if you listen to this, you'd probably be, so yeah, the number 20 for me. Rolling Stones, I'm not a huge fan of the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones, I'm not denying their impact. I know they've had a lot of impact, but, and if this was just the Brian Jones era, it'd be much higher. Brian Jones, one of my favorite musicians of all time. Can't say much about them and that era, but the era after that, Ronnie Wood and Mick Taylor, come on. They've had some pretty stinky songs. Mick Jagger, iconic frontman. I don't think he's that great of a vocalist. Just don't think they're, the band that everyone really gets on about. 9, Soundgarden. Soundgarden is such a great grunge band, way better than Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that shit. Soundgarden was heavy. They were heavy. They made those Chris Cornell such a great singer, a beautiful vocalist. Kim Thaco, great guitarist in that. And great songs, great albums. I'm trying to get this fast, get this over with. The Police, brilliant 3-piece band, short discography, but they made Every Breath You Take, Message in a Bottle. They made King of Pain, they made Spirits in This Material World, Roxanne, they made what else have they made? They made some other songs, right? Jeez, I'm like forgetting. Next to You. Don't Stand So Close to Me, So Lonely. Beautiful songs. Sting. Great singer. They did something so unique. They mixed new wave. They mixed reggae. They mixed punk music. One of the early new wave acts was what the Police were. And you gotta respect their unique build. 7, if you remember the start of the vid, I'm going to say bands that are kind of important to me, that they have albums that are so good, but in entirety they're not that great. Well, this is one of them. I don't think this band is good. I don't like this band, but through some liking towards them though. Even though I dislike them a bit, some of my heart says I like it a bit. Only because for a few albums. I'm talking about Kiss. Kiss is not talented. Kiss. I'm mainly talking about early Kiss, the OG lineup of Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, of course, but I'm also talking about when Ace Frehley and Peter Criss were in the band with Paul and Gene. Now, they've had 2 records that I've actually liked, and a record that I think is so mediocre. The 2 records that I like, Rock and Roll Over, which I own on vinyl, and Hotter Than Hell. And the song and the album that I say is mediocre is the debut album, Kiss. Now, after Kiss, after the OG lineup, grew apart, they've had Creature of the Night, Lick It Up, which are fucking amazing. That is heavy metal right there. That is heavy fucking music. But let's talk a bit about why I don't like them. I just don't think they are talented. I think their songwriting is a piece of shit. They're not good songwriters. Let's be honest. Come on. Let's be honest. This Rock and Roll All Night, really good song, good songwriting. Ladies Room. It's a good song, but the lyricism, bullshit. Now, I'm gonna talk about why I don't like Destroyer, Love Gun, Dress to Kill. Mediocre. They're not good. They're not good. I mean, I don't like them. I don't like their style. Obviously, the hard rockers like that, AC/DC, there's Van Halen, but those are good bands. Those are good bands. Guns N' Roses falls in that title. I don't think they're that good either. Guns N' Roses not good. Motley Crue is especially not good. Talk about the hair metal kind of bands. The guys with the hair. I think Kiss is just a joke band. They're just a funny, comedic band. Not like Tenacious D whatsoever. But they're a joke. But they made 2 new records. Hotter Than Hell. I've always respected that record. It's raw and heavy. Raw and heavy. Such awesome songs on there. You have Parasite. How the fuck are you gonna tell me, even if you hate Kiss, you're not gonna tell me that Parasite is a killer riff? Ace Frehley is a genius. Probably the only Kiss member that I'll ever like. Other than Eric Carr. From that OG lineup, I think he's the only one I'll ever like. Kiss, also Rock and Roll Over, one of my favorite songs, Making Love. Love it. Love Making Love. They've also had songs like I Want You and Take Me. Those are good as well. You have some shit songs. Of course, there's always going to be a clunker on a Kiss album. Always, on those early records especially. Always. I'm telling you, they're not that talented, overrated band. We're from New York, so I respect it a bit. Anyway, let's move on to another grunge band, in my opinion, the best grunge band, Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains is a band that you gotta respect. You gotta respect Alice in Chains. They're way better. Wayne Staley is such a beautiful musician. They're the ones who made, I would say the music is more heavy metal. With Dirt and Facelift, you have songs like Sea of Sorrow. Them Bones is nowhere near grunge. That's like heavy thrash metal. Like, jeez. But they carried on with Wayne Staley. They only had 3 real albums. I mean, come on. Heard all 3 of them. Didn't bother to listen to the William Duval records. Fuck that shit. Number 5, Megadeth. Megadeth is the best Big 4, in my opinion. You have the iconic, I'm gonna be honest, I don't listen to Megadeth to listen to Dave Mustaine's voice. Watching me come again. Like, no one wants to hear that. Everyone listens to Megadeth because they shred the best. They shred the best. Dave Mustaine, man, if he never got kicked from Metallica would be one of the best bands of all time. You have Dave and Cliff in one band. You also have James Hetfield, brilliant riff writer, and a great vocalist. But anyways, Megadeth, they had Rust in Peace, beautiful masterpiece. Euthanasia is awesome. You have great songs as well. You have Hangar 18, Rust in Peace. You got Peace Sells, Wake Me Up Dead. My goodness, you just listen to them for the shredding, that's it. 4, Iron Maiden. Probably a great act to heavy metal, great introduction to heavy metal. You gotta love Iron Maiden, Steve Harris, great basses. You have Adrian. My goodness. Adrian Murray in them. You have 3 guitarists in Iron Maiden. They made great records, Power Slave, Number of Beasts, with such great songs on there, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, right? I'm pretty sure it's Mariner. Yeah, Mariner. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ace is High. You also have the Number of the Beast. You have Hallowed by Thy Name. Number of the Beast. You have The Prisoner. Run to the Hills. Then you have Peace of Mind, where you have Flight of the Cars. Still the Trooper. Die with Your Boots On, Where Eagles Dare. But one of my favorite songs comes from the record Fear of the Dark. And I'm talking about the title track, Fear of the Dark. Fear of the Dark is beautiful. It's incredible. Dave Murray and Janet Gers, such excellent. The brilliant drumming from Nico McBrain and the brilliant singing from Bruce Dickinson. You cannot say anything more than that. They're definitely one of the best, bands of all time. Anyways, let's move on to another progressive rock band, but I consider them more progressive rock and hard rock. We're talking about Rush. Another band like Megadeth. You listen to the music, you have Geddy Lee's voice isn't really that great. It's a bit cancerous, but you cannot lie and deny their impact and their talent. Forget Tom Sawyer. You have Spirit of Radio. Closer to the Heart. You have Anthem. You have the brilliance of Neil Peart and the brilliant bass playing of Geddy Lee, and brilliant guitar riffs, the brilliant solos of Alex Lifeson. Rush is definitely gotta be on my list. Love Rush and love their music. Not talking about the hits, of course, not talking mainly about their, their underground hits. Jacob's Ladder, of course, where that's more heavy. Of course, XYZ. No, YYZ. Man, I don't even know my own music. I have terrible knowledge. Anyway, let's move on to a band from New York. Another band from New York that is probably the most known punk act, the Ramones. The Ramones, obviously, are they talented musicians? No! Maybe Marky Ramone. And if you're going to tell me that Marky Ramone isn't a good drummer, he's just a replacement drummer, listen to Dust. You hear Marky Ramone's drumming and you don't even think that's Marky Ramone. The motherfucker knows how to play. Way better than Tommy, way better than Elvis. Not Elvis. Richie. Way fucking better than all of them. Trust me. You like the Ramones? Listen to Dust. Anyways, the Ramones, their debut album is iconic. Second album's iconic. Everything from that OG lineup's iconic. You have Road to Ruin. You have End of the Century, which not many people like because of how fucking well it's produced so greatly. No expect to ruin another record, of course. I haven't really dived deep into Blood and Truth, but I'm planning to. I might do it, alright? But you can't lie and deny the impact the Ramones had on their punk rock music. They got balls. They had balls. Johnny Ramone and Joey Ramone with that rivalry, Joey Ramone and Michael Ramone, that funny Howard Stern interview, when both had balls. Dee Dee Ramone, him being Dee Dee, just brilliant. My top one honorable mention, Van Halen. Van Halen, Eddie, Van Halen, rest in peace. Alex Van Halen with his brilliant drumming. David Lee Roth with his erratic personality. Who gives a shit? You know how many good songs they made. In my opinion, one of the best debut albums of all time. You have great songs on there. You have Running for the Devil, Eruption, It Really Got Me, Atomic Punk. Brilliant fucking track. You ain't talking about mom. You also carry on with Van Halen too. They just had a great discography. You know, they were heavy, so inspirational. Eddie Van Halen, one of the best guitarists of all time. You know, he was so inspirational to everybody getting into metal, the future metal band, and all that. Van Halen, you gotta love the music. You gotta. And my favorite rock band, I think I've said this many times, the Beatles. The Beatles. Where do you even start with this band? Their early albums are great, but their latter albums are incredible. I Own Revolver, I Want Abbey Road, I want all of them. I want every single record by them, except Yellow Submarine. I've said so much about them. They're a talented band, inspirational rock music, they started the whole thing, they have talent, they know how to write a good song, of course. And that front line between George Harrison, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and the Beats in the back, Ringo Starr. Gotta say something. Alright, I've said too much about the Beatles before. They have great songs and all that. Beautiful albums, a brilliant and surprising progression. And that's all. That is my top 10. If you want, feel free to mention yours. I'll try and judge it. I don't know if I'll answer it on my main or my second account. But I hope you like this. See you.